consumers really are taking seriously the idea that car and truck prices will be rising and that appliance prices could be rising as well.
CBS News confirms the whistleblower who investigated Hunter Biden has been sworn in as acting IRS commissioner.
Gary Shapley testified before Congress. The Biden Justice Department and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware impeded his probe. He told CBS in 2023,
there were certain investigative steps that we weren't allowed to take that could have led us to President Biden.
Last September, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to not paying at least $1.4 million in taxes. Shapley will serve as acting IRS commissioner until the Senate confirms President Trump's pick to lead the agency. Former Missouri Congressman Billy Long. Michael Wallace, CBS News.
In Rome, doctors and staff at Gemelli Hospital with a big round of applause for the Pope, who visited to deliver mille grazie, 1,000 thanks, for their care and attention while he was being treated for double pneumonia.
Grazie a lei per tutto quello che avete fatto.
Pope spent 38 days at Gemelli Hospital before he returned to the Vatican on March 23rd. The Dow's down 257 points at the open, NASDAQ off 360. It's about 2%. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Whether you're shaping up a small yard or tackling serious acreage, Steel walk-behind zero-turn and stand-on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow. Available at participating dealers.
And now, a Progressive ad brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive could save big with Progressive.
This has been a Progressive ad from Progressive. See if you could save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE or Progressive.com.
It's the boys of summer. You're listening to Rutherford County's home of the Atlanta Braves. I'm Ben Ingram, and this is News Radio WGNS, Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
The Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department is going door to door asking for your help in the 2025 special census. The only information they will ask for is your street address, the number of residents living at that address, and their first and last names. That's it, and it only takes a couple of minutes to complete. Information gathered for the special census provides funds to improve our public safety division, and that benefits the entire community. You can also fill out the special census online at murfreesborocensus.com.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. It's a Wednesday, and a beautiful Wednesday indeed here in Murfreesboro. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates, and the Blue Raider Network. Glad to have you here on the Roundtable this morning. And it just kind of amazes me that, we just continue to have interesting folks come through the door, and this week is no different. Today, Matt Jernigan, who is the president and CEO of Ascend Federal Credit Union, is here. And Matt, it's good to see you again. I was telling you it'd been like about a little over a year since I'd run into you in person, and that was down at the Ascend headquarters in Tullahoma. But you got up early and came on up. But you had a pretty day to drive today.
Yes, absolutely. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me, Chip. Certainly a short drive into Murfreesboro and up here a lot with our branch footprint, certainly throughout the city of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. So pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how long you've been in the CEO role? How long now?
So just over 2 years, actually 2-year anniversary last week. We'll celebrate my 20th year with Ascend overall, actually next month. So time flies when you're having fun. So again, really enjoying it. But yeah, I've really enjoyed my time and seeing us grow, see our communities grow, and the role we have in that.
Yeah, well, kind of give folks a little bit of the Matt background and the Matt bio, and how you ended up at Ascend.
Sure. Actually, it was one of the first executive hires of my predecessor, Karen Gabriel. So, Middle Tennessee native, born and raised. So, actually, MTSU graduate in 2001.
Where'd you grow up?
Manchester area,
Manchester,
so Coffee
gotcha.
County. So, hard to distinguish where one stops and where starts these days. But so, grew up there. Went to college at MTSU. Graduated with an accounting degree in 2001. Oddly, April 15th being yesterday, didn't take me too many tax seasons to realize public accounting was not where I wanted to spend my career. So was actually at that time with a firm that was doing the internal audit on an outsourced basis for what was then AEDC, Federal Credit Union.
Right.
And so Karen approached me about coming in, starting the internal audit department internally. We were getting close to about $1 billion in assets, and that's really when they want that program to come inside. So came in 2005, started the program, and about within 4 or 5 years made the move over to operations and kind of have worked in different roles within the operation executive vertical, and seen my scope of influence expand, and again took the CEO role a couple of years ago. So seen a lot of change, but one thing hasn't changed. It's just our focus on members, and that's kind of what I'm most proud of. 20 years later, a lot of what we do is different, but why and how is sort of not changed.
Well, I'll tell you, for somebody who struggled with math all the way through my high school and college career, I found the path of least resistance. Where did I have the least math classes? Here you are, you went into accounting. I'm curious, was there a teacher along the way in high school or something that really flipped the switch for you to get into the numbers game when you wanted to become an accountant?
Really was. Two very influential teachers. One was actually during my junior college days at Malo. It was Dr. Ward Harder. He was actually my first accounting professor, and I was kind of, at that point in my academic career, really didn't have any specific direction, but really excelled in his class, and he was kind of a mentor to me, got me plugged in with a lot of professionals in the area in accounting. So really owe gratitude to him. And then the late Dr. Paula Thomas at MTSU was very instrumental too, and just kind of her approach to students and kind of guiding them along, being that obviously academic expert, but then also that personal person who really looked out for students and kind of encouraged them along the way. So those two certainly stand out as mentors in my life.
Well, and that it's always great to be able to look back and know where that kind of came from, and with you in the position you're in now, to have come up through the ranks and kind of done all the jobs along the way. Obviously, I think it put you in a great position a couple of years ago when Karen Gabriel decided that she was ready to enjoy her grandchildren and those kind of things and retire, that you had built a wealth of experience over 20 years or so.
Certainly, and I mean, it's I stand on the shoulder of a lot of people who helped me along the way, my parents, and then certainly academic influences, and Karen specifically as well. And one of the things that I think I've been such a benefit of in my career is leaders who are willing to take chances at times that other leaders may be kind of winding down a career. So I mean, one of the examples I would give with Karen is probably within the last 5-6 years of her tenure, we had a lot of legacy technology we were going to have to replace and really position ourselves well for where we knew the industry was going from a digital standpoint. So she made the investment not only in me, but giving me the leeway to kind of take on some of those large projects at a time where, a lot of leaders, I think, are kind of easing into status quo. She certainly was not one of those leaders. So always grateful for her giving me those opportunities and trusting me in that leadership role. And really just, it established such a smooth transition that I've enjoyed in the CEO seat. And just, again, I get the benefit of having the title, but I mean, this show's too short for me to say thank you enough to all the people around me.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about a lot of the digital and the technology stuff in a bit. But before we look forward, I want to look back just a little bit. And when people see the name, there may be people who didn't grow up, or there's a lot of people who didn't grow up around here that live here, and they see Ascend Federal Credit Union. And, of course, we all knew it earlier as the old AEDC Credit Union. Talk about the history of how Ascend came about and how it is, experienced explosive growth.
So yes, we were started on the base, Arnold Engineering Development Center within Tullahoma, actually in 1951, and it literally, like many credit unions, started with a cigar box. So concept and
so next year will be 75 years.
75 years next year.
Okay, wow.
And don't look a day over 25.
That's right.
So, but no, it really started, and I mean the cooperative nature kind of goes back to the roots. So a cigar box and literally people with means to save pooling their resources together to extend credit to younger or employees that needed access to credit. And you hear stories from people back at that time, even talking about, an employee would come in, want a loan for an auto loan or something like that, and they would literally call someone and say, hey, I need you to come make a deposit, Joe needs an auto loan. So, I mean, it was really that basic of a concept, and really started out of a cigar box. And, I think it's that cooperative principle of people willing to kind of invest in, the next generation, and that cooperative spirit is really what makes a difference. So, I mean, that started in 1951 at Arnold Engineering Development Center. We had our name change in 2006 from AEDC to Ascend, but we always like to say you can't spell Ascend without AEDC. So
it's all in there.
Yes.
So literally, it was like employees who just a group of folks who just got together and did that. It was not like a separate group of folks who came in and said, hey, we want to help you with this. I mean, all of that came later, but.
Correct. It was truly, peer-to-peer lending and credit, and again, just looking out and giving credit accessibility to people who, again, maybe because of work history, things like that, they didn't have access to that credit. So that's kind of where it started. Any
idea where the whole credit union idea started? And I'm guessing it was something similar, but
it is. The concepts of credit unions go all the way back to the cooperative principle. So a lot of labor unions, things like that, it was giving access to their members who may, for a variety of reasons, may have been cut out from the traditional banking system. So it was giving through cooperatives that ownership, really affording ownership to people who, they could never afford stock in a bank or anything like that. So they had ownership in their credit union and accessibility that otherwise, wouldn't be available to them in the traditional financial system.
And somewhere along the way, obviously, it went from being just a service to the employees at AEDC to something much bigger. And when did that come? And and you might not have been there at the time, but how that decision was made. Okay, we want to serve a larger public.
Certainly. I think just from a standpoint with any organization, you take a good idea and it serves that original population very well, but understanding, again, the need was much broader than just the organization, there on base itself. There was a mission and an opportunity to serve the broader public at large. So, really grateful to those that had the foresight of saying, we've got a good concept that works well here for the base, so let's extend it outside very much first to the broader community in Tullahoma, but even it feeds into kind of the pathway that we have made into Murfreesboro. So in 1988, we merged to the old VA hospital credit union, and they became part of our what's called field of membership. So that was kind of our entry point into Murfreesboro, and operated that branch for a long time. So that's kind of how that's happened over the years. Is as smaller credit unions have not achieved scale, we've been able to merge those in and then expand our field of membership to again take a good cooperative business model and extend it beyond just the base.
Well, when people look at a credit union and then they see down the street, they see banks and credit unions. kind of what is the business 101 when we're talking about the difference between a bank and a credit union?
Certainly. I mean, that's a very nuanced difference to the consumer, I think, outside the organization.
You walk in and it's same services.
Savings accounts, checking accounts, auto loans. I think where it really gets down kind of the difference, and it's not a bad difference, it's just different. It's the ownership structure. Banks obviously are owned by stockholders, and they have stockholder value, things like that drive obviously their strategy and their goals. Credit unions are owned by their individual members. So whether it's a member that has, $100,000 on deposit or $100, they one member, one vote. It's the cooperative mindset. So that's really where it's the same products, but it is the ownership structure, and then I think that ownership structure that drives kind of our mentality. Also, a big difference is our governance structure. We have a volunteer board of directors made up of members, so that's a key difference as well.
Yeah, and there's also a nonprofit part of the structure there. Explain how that works and how it's different from a bank.
Yes, credit unions are not-for-profit entities. We have a tax exemption, so we do have a subsidy of sorts through that mechanism in the tax code. But what that allows us to do is we leverage that to pay higher savings rates to our members, try to give lower loan rates, and just give accessibility to others, knowing that, in a for-profit bank, there's an element of scale that, you may have to charge fees for certain minimum balances, things like that, whereas we have much lower barriers of entry from that standpoint. So that's, I think the tax exemption of credit unions is sometimes a debated topic, but what we do with that subsidy is really kind of creating that lower barrier to entry for our members.
Yeah, and with that in mind, if you are an Ascend member at some point during the year, you're typically going to get a notice that, hey, there's been something deposited in your account, that a bit of a dividend.
Yes, we've been very, very fortunate, and the good thing about a cooperative is the success of your members drives the success of your organization. So for over a decade now, we've been able to pay a bonus dividend the 1st of December. Last year, that amount was $3.5 million with the direct dividend, but then also with what we were paying on our new checking products, in addition to that, it was a total of over $7.5 million that we were able to return to our members last year. So,
wow.
Again, we cannot do that without our members' loyalty. It's all because of the loyalty they give us. And again, it's just a small return of, again, our appreciation to them. So that's one of the key differences too, is that when we do have that surplus earnings, we return that in the form of those bonus dividends.
Yep. I mean, kind of give us a little, we talked about it started in Tullahoma, but the footprint of where you all have branches now, because obviously it started right there in Tullahoma and now has expanded quite a bit. And Murfreesboro was a big next market, I guess, back in the day.
Murfreesboro has been a huge success story for us. I said earlier, we came into the market in 1988. The one branch and there with the VA, we eventually moved that over to Clark Boulevard, and that was our primary location for a long time. Used to have a branch here on South Church. We've moved that a little bit down the road to the Savannah Ridge development. So we have today 5 branches in the Murfreesboro city limits.
Got one right by campus.
Yes.
Right there on East Main and Rutherford. So
5 convenient locations.
Dean Job's office over there.
Yes, he is. Everybody knows Dean. I think he is Mr. Blue Raider himself.
That's right. But you've expanded obviously into Nashville, and one thing we'll talk a little bit about a bit more. But when you got into the naming rights, obviously one of the things that helped name recognition in Nashville during a boom time was putting your name on Ascend Amphitheater.
Yes, that's been a very beneficial investment for us. And so we, since my time at Ascend, we have now grown. Today we have 28 branches across the mid-state. So several, as I mentioned, in Rutherford County, into Nashville, and then we go as far east as Cookeville, and we're in the Mount Juliet area, Hendersonville. So really, again, throughout that Middle Tennessee corridor, again, seeing good growth and expansion. And, doesn't hurt to be in, I think, one of the most popular areas to relocate right now.
Yeah, I mean, that corridor that you're in, right up that I-24 corridor is pretty impressive. You mentioned that you talked about the member-owned structure. Talk a bit more about that and how involved they get, because obviously you mentioned the board of directors. They come from your membership, and how often do those seats change, and how often do they give you the marching orders?
So I'm very, very fortunate to have 9 great board members, and then we also have 3 additional volunteers that are on our audit committee. So yes, they come from our membership. They serve 3-year terms. Throughout their term, they're again, it's a democratic process, as you would expect from a cooperative. So, it is, I think, a fundamental difference in our structure is that our board knows they are representatives of each member. So they take that very serious. There's a lot of continuing education that that they have to voluntarily commit to. So it's very heavy lift, and I mean we as an organization couldn't be what we are without them.
Yeah, and when you all went through the growth period, what were you looking at as far as areas where new branches could go, and is there a sense that there might still be some more growth areas out there?
There certainly is, and I mean I think with again the population of Murfreesboro growing like it is, Davidson County growing, and then certainly other markets that we're looking at. Clarksville's a very attractive market, kind of in that Middle Tennessee area as well. I think one of the strategies we looked at more than a decade ago was understanding. There's always a debate in our industry about, is it all digital, is it all brick and mortar? And, where I think we've landed at from a strategy standpoint is it's something going to be in between. So I think we were very effective, like I said, several years ago, getting our branch footprint down. A typical, I think, classic financial center or branch would be 5,000, 7,500 square feet. We have, through technology and through some changes we've had in our design, we can get that down to about 2,000 square feet now. So being able to deploy that quickly into markets, we can go into strip centers and things like that. So it gives us a lot of diversity from a standpoint of moving quickly and moving into new markets, test new markets. So, I really think, just as the Middle Tennessee area continues to grow, we will, backfill into new communities that, are showing growth. And again, we hear from our members all the time that have relocated to other areas, please bring a branch to our area. So I think,
well, part of that technology is, and I can as a member myself and driving up to make my car payment, is that if I drive up, especially out here like on Clark Boulevard, and you've got East Main, where you have several outdoor drive-through areas that, and we know that our society these days, you could look at any coffee spot and people will sit in their cars and instead of come in to the building, but it gives you several options to drive up and talk to a human, and I think that's something that people want to be able to do and can basically pull off most basic services right there, pulling up at a drive-through.
Yes, what we call them, we refer to them as ITMs. They're kind of the 21st century version of ATM. So, and really they can be used either way. You can pull up, do the self-service, or you can actually talk with someone if you need to as well. So that was a great investment we made several years ago. And what it's allowed us to do is, you're right, we've extended those hours from 7 to 7 because, I mean, in today's world, the term banker's hours just doesn't work. I mean, we live in a 24/7 world, and we know our members do, and they have those expectations. So it's really given us a way to introduce technology into a traditional channel, unlike any other investment.
Yep, we're talking credit unions today, and Ascend Federal Credit Union, so we need to step aside and pay a few bills ourselves right here on the Roundtable here on WGNS.
The Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department is going door to door asking for your help in the 2025 special census. The only information they will ask for is your street address, the number of residents living at that address, and their first and last names. That's it, and it only takes a couple of minutes to complete. Information gathered for the special census provides funds to improve our public safety division, and that benefits the entire community. You can also fill out the special census online at murfreesborocensus.com.
Heritage South Community Credit Union. You won't find crazy promotions with pages of requirements. You won't find endless phone trees with computer voices. You won't find an out-of-state bank focused on turning a profit. Instead, we help when others won't. We've been doing that for our community since we started in a pencil factory in Shelbyville almost 70 years ago. If you're tired of big banks, it's time to try your local community credit union. Visit heritagesouth.org to learn more. Insured by NCUA.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Middle Point Landfill's Mike Klassen.
Between our property and the county landfill property, there are 1,000 contiguous acres that doesn't exist anywhere else in this county. And what an opportunity to do something big there. And we as Republic, as part of this long-term 50-year vision, are saying we will pay for and work with the county on building any number of recycling programs.
The answer's here.
We are ready to do something big there.
Middle Point Landfill.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and Americare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. I've lived and worked as a lawyer in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years, and to me, every single day has been an honor. That's why our firm is so involved with community programs like bicycle helmet giveaways and our Safe Ride Home program. At the law offices of John Day, we're not just looking to make donations. We want to make a difference in the community we hold so dear. And if you're ever injured, know that we are here for you too.
For over 78 years, WGNS has brought you the local news, and we still do. Thanks for tuning in during this Easter week. This Saturday evening, the music of Hank Williams at the Art Center of Cannon County in neighboring Woodbury. 7:30 Saturday night. Call them and get your tickets. That number is 615-563-ARTS. The music of Hank Williams, Saturday night at 7:30 at the Art Center of Cannon County. Well, the Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Please give the gift of life over at the Red Cross. Right now, phone them at 800-RED-CROSS and make an appointment to give blood at a time that fits your schedule. And the life skills training classes for persons unique with disabilities continues at Greenhouse Ministries. To learn more about that program, contact Carol Dudley at Greenhouse Ministries. Oh, don't forget the Rutherford County Historical Society meets on Monday of next week, April 21st, 7 o'clock in the evening, over at Oakland's Mansion. 7 o'clock Monday night, April 21st. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
Sunny skies here this afternoon, a high in the low 70s. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 46. By Thursday, partial sunshine develops, high 75. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 54.
Middle Tennessee Electric is proud to bring you the 24th Annual Earth Day celebration Saturday, April 26, 10 to 2 on the Square. Check out local and organic products, live music, and more. Free fun for the whole family, April 26th. Find out more information at rcearthday.com.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Wednesday Roundtable here on WGNS. Matt Jernigan, the president and CEO of Ascend Federal Credit Union, is my guest, and we'll go through the top of the hour. And if you happen to have a question or comment to Matt, you can text it to 615-893-1450. Obviously, Matt, we talked about how Ascend is membership owned, which I would imagine with the events of the last week have allowed the old CEO to probably sleep a little bit better because not being publicly traded, you all have not been part of the swings of the stock market.
Well, certainly from the equity market, it certainly has been something that we've been able to sleep better around. It has impacted some of the bond markets, treasuries that we use as index to set mortgage rates, and I think even for our members, we fielded a lot of questions about what I think uncertainty always brings an element of fear, and I've kind of spoken with my team in the last week. I think when you have something like this and you look back, I think around the pandemic and things like that, it seems like these mega disruptions, the reaction is always worse than the reality. And I keep reminding our team that, and I keep reminding, I think as we communicate to our members, it's, don't disrupt your financial plan again during this, massive upheaval. Just, continue to work your savings plan. There is some uncertainty that impacts us, around the auto industry, what's going to happen to auto pricing, things like that. So we're definitely keeping an eye on those influences around us, but certainly just kind of inviting patience and advising our members to, just keep a level head about things, make rash transactions.
Yeah, in the overall financial world, the amount of digital technology that's out there, does that allow for quicker reactions and or overreactions sometimes than if you had time to sit back and I guess that's part of the there's the good and the part that is not so good sometimes.
Sort of does. I'm glad you mentioned that, and it's something from my perspective, I think, just ingrained in us as a credit union. It's a concern I think we have in our industry that there's a lot of attention on doing things faster. And we were actually having a planning session a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned to our team that, I never want us to lose the mindset of the member focus. And, I kind of coined the term. I said, I don't want a member to be in a product in 5 minutes that they regret in 5 years. And what I mean by that is, we can make a loan to you in 5-10 minutes. But if you don't understand the structure of that, if you don't understand how it fits into your personal budget, and you regret where it's put you in a financial position in 5 years, we haven't done our job as a credit union. So the speed and pace of the transaction, we certainly want to lean into. We want to be convenient and fast, but we never want to lose that element of, hey, well, let's think, let's not do something today Matt wants, but 10 years from now, Matt is going to really regret.
Yeah. And in the digital nature, we are a microwave society. There's no question about that. But you talked about how Ascend has tried to find that happy medium, in particular at the branch level, because I can remember going in and there'd be 5 people in line in front of me at my local bank or credit union, whatever it might be, and especially on Fridays because people cashing those paychecks, and then obviously direct deposit had a huge deal to do with that. But now when you either walk into the branch and punch the screen or drive up and punch the screen like you mentioned, between that, the apps that are available, online banking, the foot traffic across the board has just cut down, but you still want to have that personal touch there in a way, and finding that happy medium like it appears that you guys have has been key to your success.
Yeah, I really think it has been. We've repositioned. I mean, we're evolving kind of that whole branch experience, as the transaction, we're really seeing that transaction side of our business either move toward automated means or certainly through self-service. So it's allowed us to kind of really look, at kind of our service structure. We've taken the approach in the last several years where what we term them financial service officers. We are training them in how to have budget sessions. So you can come into any financial center and they'll work out a monthly budget with you, get you equipped, kind of, again, introduce some of those saving disciplines, things like that. And then at some of our locations too, we have what are called senior financial service officers that can do a relatively small amount of financial planning. And then we have a full wealth management division too. So we we think from a, teaching you how to spend and save from that standpoint, how to borrow responsibly, and then eventually building wealth, planning for retirement. We want to be a financial institution that you can grow with throughout your financial life.
Yeah, and being able to do that now is more important than ever before. If there's any financial uncertainty out there, then being able to have something to lean on and give yourself some confidence about your own financial picture. Now is a great time to do that. So and we see more and more, and I think it's probably a good thing that we're seeing more and more personal finance classes being taught in schools and things like that. So let's say I was able to walk into a branch today and wanted to talk to a financial service officer to say, hey, I'm writing checks every month for my car, my house, whatever. I need to get a handle on this, and would need to budget. Here's what I'm making every month. Kind of take me through what that conversation would be like.
Yeah, certainly one of the first, some very fundamental things they're going to walk you through. First and foremost, I think any part of and what a financial service officer would help you with is establishing that emergency savings. I think that is one of the most critical, overlooked fundamentals of personal finance. So, something within 3 to 6 months of expenses typically is what we want to happen, because I think one of the critical natures of that emergency savings being in, a savings account or money market, one of the biggest disruptors is, the washing machine goes out, you have an auto repair, and suddenly you're in a situation of having emergency credit. And that's always going to be higher priced credit than what you plan for. So I think that strategy, first of all, is how do we build this emergency savings? Is it pooling, what you may have in different funds, or is it setting up, automatic savings through direct deposit, something like that? So that's going to be the first thing. And then planning out, what is your borrowing needs over the, let's say 1 to 3 year horizon? Do you have an auto purchase in your future? Things like that. So begin to plan that down payment, getting in a good position where you're, not extending yourself from a borrowing capacity. And then looking at, again, your long-term goals, home ownership. We know certainly a need and that's becoming such a struggle for home ownership for younger people. Planning those events, so home ownership, retirement, what are those long-term goals? So kind of putting things into what's just over the horizon here in the next 90 to 120 days. How can we plan for emergencies that happen in that window? What's happening in the 1 to 3 year window? And then what are your future plans? So that's kind of what an FSO would walk you through, is kind of those short-term, mid-term, and then long-term goals.
Yeah, and that's great information to have. I know, like the vehicle I drove up in here this morning it has a loan from Ascend on it, so you guys own my vehicle. So, but one of the things that is just one of the things that's out there. The dealership I bought it from, when they said, well, here's where the best rates are and that kind of thing. It's still local, but talk about products that are out that you guys have that for consumers, whether what types of checking do you have right now, and all the way up through home loans.
Yes. So kind of just walk kind of from the basic all the way out to the kind of more advanced. One of the things we introduced a couple of years ago was our high yield checking account. So it's actually a checking account that today's paying 3.56%. So very, very good rate. Highly recommend that as far as somewhere to park those emergency funds that you may need in the future. So it's earning a good rate, and so it'll earn that up to the first $15,000. We also have, if your kind of a means for savings are minimal right now, but again you have a debit card with us, we have a version of that account that actually pays you 5 cents per swipe on your debit card. So we're trying to create products there at that level.
It pays you.
Pays you. So
okay, not pays an extra 5% to the company that you're buying something from.
Correct. It pays the
5 cents back to the member. Okay.
To the member. So that way, if again, whether you're savings motivated and want that higher rate, or something to pay you back for the loyalty on the debit card spend. So that's on the checking side. Auto lending, we actually offer two kind of forms of auto lending. You can come in directly with us and get pre-approved again and at one of our branches or even online, or we have dozens of in-market, what we call dealership partners.
Well, that's where mine came from.
So very thankful for our dealer network. They're very loyal as well. So again, reaching out into that convenience element of, do you want to come in and talk to someone first, or is it more convenient for you to go to the auto dealership? So that's kind of on those fronts. Certainly offer credit cards, and kind of with the basic terms that you would expect. And then longer term, we do have mortgages. We have a variety of those, fixed rates, ARMs. We also have home equity products, either a fixed home equity, fixed amount, or a home equity line of credit. And then also we have our Arise team, which is the wealth management. So again, whether you're kind of just starting your financial journey, wanting to kind of know the basics of budgeting and finance, or again, you're looking, where do I put 401k rollovers, things like that, we can also assist with those.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question that I get asked every day in my real estate business. What are rates going to do? And because, the thing that I've found in the real estate market is that a lot of people who would be making purchases of homes, whether they were upsizing or downsizing, have held off. People who have to make the move due to job change, things like that, moving to a different town, they're still driving right now the real estate market. But people who are have an option, sometimes they may be waiting a little bit. And I think I have in my mind what I think a magic number in rates are going to be that might throw the switch open on the market. But what are you seeing? And because it's all tied to the bond market, as you mentioned, are you seeing good signs right now that heading us in the right direction?
We certainly think, our kind of budgeting and forecast, we think rates are going to trend a little bit lower toward the end of this year. I think, I think one of the things I would say to prospective homeowners is to have a true historical context of mortgage rates.
Yes.
We're still very much as a country in a very affordable mortgage rate versus maybe not what they were, in the prior decade, but going back several decades, mortgages are still very affordable. One of the things we have is that actually introducing the ability for someone to get a mortgage today but then pay just kind of a fee in the future that will allow them to refinance that basically lower, but not go through the full mortgage process. So, things like that look, they always say, you can, you can buy the house once, but you can refinance the rate multiple times. So I think finding the house that's right for you.
Marry the house, rent the rate.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So that's what's going on. And again, there are so many branches. What'd you say, 27?
28.
28 branches in Middle Tennessee, 7 here in Rutherford County. We will take a time out. Back with our final segment with Matt Jernigan of Ascend Federal Credit Union right after this here on WGNS.
The Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department is going door to door asking for your help in the 2025 special census. The only information they will ask for is your street address, the number of residents living at that address, and their first and last names. That's it, and it only takes a couple of minutes to complete. Information gathered for the special census provides funds to improve our public safety division, and that benefits the entire community. You can also fill out the special census online at murfreesborocensus.com.
Check out what's showing at murfreesboromovies.com. Popcorn popped fresh daily. Premiere 6 on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I gotta fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're gonna be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app that gets you real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use
promo code LIFE to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code LIFE for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code LIFE for a 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's code LIFE.
Murfreesboro firefighters are going door to door to ensure that everyone is counted in the special census. Every resident means more funding for roads, schools, and emergency services. Up to $3.5 million more each year. So don't wait. Fill out the mailer you received or visit murfreesborocensus.com. That's murfreesborocensus.com. Every name matters, including yours. Help us help Murfreesboro. Fill out your special census form today. murfreesborocensus.com.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
Former CIA Officer Jason Hansen here. In my line of work, I've seen firsthand how fast the world can change. With rising geopolitical tensions and inflation eating your buying power, it's time to take action. For me, that means gold. And for gold, I exclusively trust Advantage Gold. I urge you to do the same. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold guide to discover the security that comes with owning precious metals. Again, call 800-900-8000 today.
Paid for by Advantage Gold. Performance may vary. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Always consult your financial and tax professional.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Matt Jernigan, the CEO and president of Ascend Federal Credit Union, joins us today and talking about Ascend, talking about credit unions in general, but how Ascend has been a big partner within our community. But we were just to kind of wrap up a little bit about car loans and mortgages, things like that. A lot of that comes back to your personal finances and your credit score, things like that. Kind of what can people do to understand credit scores and where they need to be when it comes time to make a big financial move, whether it's purchasing a vehicle or a home?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think credit scores are just one of those things, whether it's accessing credit, trying to rent an apartment, really just so many facets of life. I mean, based on that number, the elements that go into your credit score are certainly the age of your credit, timeliness of how you pay your bills. And one of the things that I think gets underappreciated is the ratio of outstanding debt to available credit. So I think a lot of people, when they're kind of getting their financial house in order, so to speak, a lot of people, they'll pay off credit card loans and immediately close that limit. And sometimes that can be a negative because you're actually reducing, if you've still got other credit that's out there, I mean, it can make that ratio of available credit versus used and really impact your score. So that's one point of caution. The diversity of your credit, so auto loan, having a good mix of, collateralized loans versus signature loans, that's a factor of it. And then certainly your credit usage, inquiries, things like that. So, how you manage all those factors. The biggest thing, and one of the things we make available on our app, is actually real-time access to your credit score every day. It's typically updated monthly, but knowing that number, setting a strategy for improving that number if you have less.
And it doesn't hurt you to go look at it.
It does not.
Because you hear things all that. Well, if you get your credit number pulled too many times, it's going to hurt you. But on your app, it does not hurt you to go look and check it.
Correct.
Gotcha. Now, all of that is part of financial literacy. That is, but it starts with the basics of, putting money in a piggy bank. It starts right there. What is Ascend doing throughout the region to help people become more financially literate?
Certainly, I mean, it's obviously a fabric of everything we do within our organization operation, but we constantly look for ways to just, kind of extend this thread through every part of our community, whether it's, we have a relationship with a third party that we give financial literacy elements to schools. And last year, K through 12, we gave 30,000 students in the mid-state area access to financial literacy materials free of charge. And so we're constantly looking at ways to do that. We've partnered through the credit union industries, working with the United Way, creating this concept. It's known as the ALICE, A-L-I-C-E. So it's asset limited, income constrained. And so what that is people who may live above the poverty level, which typically is what ties to a lot of financial assistance. But this looks at people who, their day-to-day expenses and income, there's just an imbalance there. So we've been working closely with them to find methods and, again, budgeting tools, things like that, extending those outside of our organization. Some of our key partnerships, we're very active with Second Harvest Food Bank. And, one of the conversations we're constantly having with our partners is, if your organization serves a certain social need, and maybe that social need has a underlining element of, if this need may go away if I was managing my finances better. If we can step in, we can't be a food bank, obviously. We can't be, a number of what the social services are. But if we can extend, the element of financial literacy into that and help remedy some of the root causes of what is the symptom so many times, then we certainly want to do that from our organization. Again, I think that's how we want to serve our 250,000 plus members very well, but we know that we obviously also have an obligation to the broader community that's non-members. So that's how we try to step in and advance again financial literacy.
Well, from a more from a larger philosophical thing. You as a CEO of a major financial institution, how important is it, do you think, and I'm talking about in particular high school kids in their curriculum, to where that becomes more of something that's standard that they're learning instead of something that's extra?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's critical. It's one of those life skills that's got to be, ingrained in everything they do. I mean, I always say you've got to learn how to manage money before you even have money,
right?
In order to manage it well. And I think not only does it help us as an organization, obviously, that's going to be selling financial services and offering those products, but I think from a community standpoint at large, it is good from a standpoint, and something that I always say that I think our role, again, to serve our members extends beyond our members, because I think if we can, through educating financial literacy and making more savvy financial consumers, you lower the risk of those consumers being financially exploited, in the future. And that's good for auto dealers, because they're going to have a capable consumer of buying a car. It's good for realtors because you're going to have a capable consumer of buying a home. So, I mean, I think financial literacy is something in the broader business community we should all be invested in, because it's going to generate just good, solid members of our communities who have financial skills, and again, lowers that risk and that prevalence of just financial exploitation, which can drain so many resources out of our community.
Yeah. And again, like Matt said, being able to manage yourself and have a good, there is a peace of mind of knowing your financial snapshot, of knowing, your situation and how to, and just to know where you are. And like, if you're in the market for thinking about, buying a house or buying a car, go get that pre-approval, give yourself the power of knowledge before you get into the market. So it's very, very important. Makes you much more of a savvy buyer, whether it's a car or a home or whatever. And then once you get that done, hey, call me, right?
And I think, you really hit on something that's so important. I think do your homework, make your decision before you get to the emotional point. If you understand beforehand, before you
might have that impulse purchase on Amazon, but don't do that with a house or a car. Do your homework there, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the organizations that you guys work with. Second Harvest Food Bank is one of those. Talk about your investment in Second Harvest, and also another basic necessity group that does so much work, and that's the Red Cross, because both do some basic work for people that all across our region.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about both those organizations you named is just they're very large organizations that can deploy resources quickly. And so again, it's where we can come alongside again with what we think we do well from a financial literacy standpoint. Certainly whether it's disaster outreach, something like that, and helping give financial resources there. But, with Second Harvest Food Bank, again, we've stepped in. They've started having some local markets, and that gives us opportunity to go on site again, teach some of those basic financial life skills and things like that. So those have been great partnerships that we're very proud of. Yeah, and the work that Second Harvest does. And I'm trying to think, and I know I'm going to get this wrong, but Taylor Loyal, who used to be there, he had it all ingrained in my head. But they serve about half the counties in this state out of the distribution center in Smyrna, which is unbelievable how they're able to do that and help so many people. And it really is. I mean, it's a fantastic operation, and what they do with the sourcing the food to the local food pantries in the communities, it's doing a service for them that those local food pantries could never do on their own. So it's getting scale that is phenomenal. Well, we talked a little bit about some of the entertainment things that you're involved with the Ascend Amphitheater, downtown Nashville. Matter of fact, I will say this: I didn't go to the first show at the amphitheater, but I went the first weekend. If I remember right, Eric Church played a Thursday night and a Friday night, and then on Saturday it was Earth, Wind and Fire in Chicago, and I was there for that show. So I was there the first weekend, and I've seen so many good shows there. But between that and you all have been very, very active and partners at MTSU. Not only you're very visible in athletics, but it's not just there. But I'm sure from a marketing standpoint, as young people are moving into their own lives, if you can be there for them while they're in college, then maybe you have a customer for life. Certainly, our partnership with MTSU, I mean, it's on so many levels: athletics, arts, and then obviously the academic side as well. Myself and 3 other members of my executive team were MTSU students, so I think in a lot of ways we view it as kind of paying it forward to a group, and certainly with MTSU, the role they play in sourcing talent and skills to this area, it's just going to benefit us. So, we have just a multifaceted relationship with there, and just really think a lot of what they do for our community, and again for just the local businesses around too, as far as creating talent for us in the future. Well, good deal. Matt, I really appreciate you coming by today, and as I told you, this hour was going to go fast, and it certainly did. And it's always good to see you. I hadn't seen you in person in like I said, about a year and a half or so, but make sure that changes. So glad you could come by. Well, it's been great joining you. Thank you for the time this morning. Appreciate it very much. Want to remind you that if you missed any of this, you can go to the WGNS website. That's wgnsradio.com. Click on podcast, click on Roundtable, and Brian will have it uploaded here before you know it. So all of that and more. And speaking of Brian Barrett, he's coming up next right here on the Big G, WGNS. Have a great day.
The Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department is going door to door asking for your help in the 2025 special census. The only information they will ask for is your street address, the number of residents living at that address, and their first and last names. That's it, and it only takes a couple of minutes to complete. Information gathered for the special census provides funds to improve our public safety division, and that benefits the entire community. You can also fill out the special census online at murfreesborocensus.com.